Hey guys, thanks for joining me back on my channel where we talk about startup and specifically this niche area called startup project management. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because I've been doing work in this area for over 15 years with small businesses and tech companies and startups. And I started exchanging notes with my friends who are project managers at larger corporations and other sort of like more established industries. And our job responsibilities were worlds apart. What I'm saying is, startup project management is a very unique position, and it's one that really doesn't get a lot of attention. So I want to shed some light on it here with my channel, impart some of the wisdom that I have learned over the years, and hopefully help those of you who are coming in to the startup world or the tech world, or interested in coming into startup project management. I just want to give you some ideas and resources for how to do it effectively. That's why I'm here. Today we're going to talk about roadmap versus backlog. These are two terms that you will hear a lot in tech, and they are very crucial to understand. Now, I've talked a little bit about backlog in a video I did on my ideas backlog, and that's the general concept of a backlog. But I really want to get into more of best practices behind the roadmap and the backlog, why we do each of them, how they work together, and who's responsible for each of those things. These are very important pieces of the puzzle in terms of how we are building the product. And you may find sometimes in startup they are not explicitly, you don't talk about them explicitly. You may kind of be working around them. You may not have a roadmap and a backlog. And so as a project manager, you really need to be careful for that and watch that. And if you don't have either of those things in place, then work to put those in place, because that is really going to help you in terms of your direction and what you are building, and making sure that you are going towards the right thing, and that you're building what you need to build in the right time frame. Okay, so let's talk about the roadmap. And every company has a roadmap, right? It's basically just a listing of your initiatives or your goals and an idea of when you want to accomplish them. A roadmap can be built using Excel or Sheets or PowerPoint, something really simple. If you are a larger organization and your roadmap's going to have a lot more pieces on it, then I'd recommend using a road mapping tool to really help make that look clean and nice and neat. But if you're smaller, you can totally get by with Sheets or Excel or PowerPoint. What you're going to have on your roadmap are your high-level initiatives. So let's say you're building a technology product. You might have feature 1, feature 2, feature 3. You may have a very brief description of each feature, but you don't want to get bogged down in details. I'm like really brief. And then you want to have an idea of when that is going to be completed. This is going to be something that is informed, ideally informed by your marketing and your product team, because they should be doing market research and user research and deciding what's important to build and what the priority is on each of those things. You may be involved in those conversations as project manager as well, but that's where the information on the what you're building is going to come from. Now, the roadmap is a document that you're going to share typically with leadership and higher level executives. So you do want to keep it kind of simple. You want to make it really clear as to what is being built and when and the order and everything. So that's really your direction. It's your umbrella for what's going to fall under it, which is the actual work, the how you're going to build this stuff. And that's where your backlog comes in. You need a backlog because, as we know, with building technology products, there's just so many different pieces involved. And so we need a backlog in order to define all of the pieces within each of those features that we're building. So we may have feature 1, and then we may have 10 user stories underneath that feature. And then within the user stories, we may have 20 tasks, 50 tasks, 100 tasks. It could be a lot, right? So how do you know? How do you know how many tasks are involved? If you're not an engineer and you don't have background in this code and all of that, how can you build a backlog? Well, this is where conversations with your engineering team are going to come in because they are really the experts on how to do this stuff. And they will be able to provide insight into how you can build these user stories and the tasks within the user stories to make a really clean trail to get to that feature. So you're going to need to have conversations with your engineering team. You may have a product owner, and your product owner will be key in those conversations as well. Or as we've talked about before, you as project manager may also be product owner. So you'll be collaborating with your team to really define each of those pieces. Now, the one piece of advice I can give you on this when you are building those user stories and tasks is to make sure you break them down as small as you can, ideally into 2-day pieces of work for each of those tasks. The reason that you want to do that is because the more you break them down and the more you break them down into 2-day tasks, the better you can estimate when work items will be complete, and the better you can meet the goal that's been established on the roadmap, or establish the timeline goal that's on the roadmap. Because we know with building software, stuff always comes up and it can be really tricky to estimate time. So the more you can really examine all of the pieces and break it down into 2-day work items, the better you are going to be able to meet deadlines and provide accurate timelines. So that's your backlog. Your roadmap's the umbrella, your backlog is all the work that falls underneath it. You as a project manager are going to be involved in building both of those pieces, so it's crucial that you know how to do that and who to include with each piece. Hope this helps, and good luck building your roadmap and backlog.